early years of the intersection.
Now I'm finally in a place
Um,
where.
So that's the only time I've ever been inside. They've obviously remodeled it since, right?
They remodeled about 10 years ago.
So I decided to pass it on. I ended up walking down to the Field Museum of Natural History and just wandered around there.
He's got relatives.
That was fun. You know, they got that big T-Rex
They have a cow ranch out there.
skeleton or fossils that they
Yes, I'm
found.
trying to get into,
Or they bought
I'm in
after it was
Duck
found by
but it doesn't have me.
a woman named
Oh, really?
Sue Henderson was the archaeologist who led the team.
I'm actually.
So,
Did you
That's the wrong way.
go out to like a strip?
I did not. I did not do pizza. We went, so Friday we flew in the morning, went to the marching band, church marching band rally at the Navy Pier
Yeah.
at noon.
Actual.
And then Friday, so after that, that was very, they were on separate flights.
Take over.
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to
Michael,
comment,
if
please
everybody
use the
in-
iPads located in the
Yeah,
lobby
everybody's
or complete a
meetings.
blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance,
Well, we
please
got
find a
this.
South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Her son lives in Columbus, Indiana.
Great. Good morning, everybody.
Who are the,
Maybe we can get
walking-
started.
Last
So
weekend.
we'll start our
Came
review
across
of the board agenda.
fun.
So our agenda item number 1 today, review of governing board meeting for November of this year. And we'll flip to page 9 of the agenda, start off with item 30, and that's on our ports cooperative agreements. And I'll turn it over to Ian to provide that update.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm here on Zoom. So this is something that we've been bringing back to board recently, so it should be a familiar item. This is on the proposed cooperative agreement between South Coast AQMD and the ports of LA and Long Beach. And as you all recall, we've been working on this measure since 2022. We have pivoted the discussion really to focus on charging and fueling infrastructure at the ports, and the ports would be preparing plans for all the sources at the ports, and then implementing those plans. And so what this is this is bringing this contract back to board for a vote for their approval. There's a number of different pieces that are in here that we have presented on previously. So the term of the agreement would be 5 years. And what goes along with this is a board resolution, and in that board resolution that will direct staff to pause any rulemaking for the term of the agreement, but there is an ability for the board to earlier than that to terminate the agreement for any reason and give new direction to staff if they so choose. So the authority for any rulemaking and staff activities remains with the board. That's not within the contract itself. But within the contract, there were a number of things that were added, including, some strict enforcement provisions, clear roles for South Coast AQMD, and verifying that the contract is being adhered to, and providing information out to the public and back to the board in regular reporting on how plan development and plan implementation is going. We've had a lot of public feedback on this. There was a lot of concern about reaching out to the public. A number of those suggestions that have come from the public have made their way back into this agreement itself. That said, that there are still some, key issues we're expecting to hear. I think there is a lot of concern that we will hear about this 5-year pause in rulemaking. And requests to change that, to not have that pause. There's a lot of discussion about wanting to get directly at emission reductions. And, as you all know, infrastructure itself does not get at reductions, but it's a really critical first step to get to deploying zero emission technology. What we have already been directed by the board at the October meeting was to pursue additional measures beyond this infrastructure-focused cooperative agreement and to bring measures back to board by spring of 2026. So we're looking to begin that work immediately following the action in November. And those measures would get more, we believe are going to look more at getting to emission reductions, really looking at the near term, and then what can happen in the near future, and what are the facilitating actions that can lead to longer term, more significant emission reductions. We also have heard concerns about using public funding for automation, and our focus really is on zero emission technologies, and we're really deferring to the ports on the issue of automation, and they've provided a response to comments on that, really pointing out where there's some existing federal and state laws already on this issue. And finally, there's been concern about the public process preventing meaningful public engagement. I did mention before, we have gotten a lot of comments. We've incorporated those in very quickly into the agreement. And we've also opened up additional opportunities for public comment. We had 2 evening community meetings, weekly office hours, and other stakeholder, engagement. We had a lot of comments sent in writing. We're going to be providing written responses to comments on all of those as well. So we have really tried to open up this period in the last few months to more opportunities for public engagement. But don't forget that this also follows years of public engagement already. I think since 2022, we've had nearly 30 public meetings, not to mention board meetings and mobile source committee meetings. So there has been a lot of public engagement to develop this concept. So with that, what we'll be asking the board to do is to make some CEQA determinations that go along with authorizing the executive officer to sign and execute the cooperative agreement. That would happen if that is approved. The execution wouldn't happen until after the boards of the harbor commissioners for LA and Long Beach. They consider this agreement as well later on in November. So then the actual execution wouldn't be until sometime later this year. There's a few budget actions too, to establish a port clean air mitigation fund for any enforcement penalties to go into, recognize receipt of funds into that same fund, and then also to recognize receipt of funds for cost recovery for staff to implement this agreement. Okay, I think that concludes my summary, so available for any questions.
Thank you, Ian, for that detailed report out. Any questions for Ian? Tom?
Well, in the CARB minutes from their last meeting, there was a report to the governor. I think it was on implementation of one of his executive orders. And one of the things they said in there was CARB should collaborate with local air districts to develop and implement a statewide indirect source rule. And this program would reduce emissions from mobile sources that frequent indirect sources such as large warehouses, ports, airports, and rail yards. I'm just wondering, I mean, this was just, I think, an idea that they threw out there, but I'm just wondering how would this, if they actually move forward, that how would that interplay with what's happening here?
You know, I'll take that, Ian.
Sure. There is some state legislation that was proposed in this last year. I believe it's AB 914 that turned into, I believe, a 2-year bill. Lisa will correct me if I've got that wrong. So I think that is, ongoing discussion up in the legislature. What, CARB's, interaction would be on any indirect sources. Regardless of that, I think what we're looking at here is that this is a step forward for anything that we would want to come next on infrastructure. This is a necessary first step. And I think what we're trying to do is get moving on this right away. And so this would create a contractual agreement to move forward on those pieces. Certainly, if there's any other regulation that is out there, whether ISR from CARB or whatever it is, or any other regulation that comes along, that will take precedent over what's in a contract. For example, if there's more aggressive requirements for deployment of zero emission vehicles or something like that, that of course takes precedent. But this is a way to move forward in the near term.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ian, you mentioned some concerns raised about automation, and then you mentioned that the ports had a view on that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I'm guessing the automation concern was raised by unions, because we've heard that as well. But I think we're talking about infrastructure for, clean vehicle fueling, that sort of stuff. Tell me what the port's view was about restrictions and or automation or the funding being used for that.
Sure. And I should say that this is probably a question that's best left to the ports to answer. They can provide more detail on it because it really is an issue more for them than for us, because we really are just kind of focused on the zero emission technologies side of it. But their response, and they provided the response to comments on this, is really pointing to existing federal and state statutes that already have exclusions on funding programs for human operated equipment. That's only for some funding programs, but they point to that already exists. But this is, of course, a bigger issue than what we're dealing with, and that's something really more for the ports and their tenants and labor.
But the funding that they might get from any funding sources we might have that would help with the infrastructure implementation would not be affected by that, their view of the infrastructure or of the automation rules, right?
This action doesn't take any action on any funding. That's, there's a lot of different programs that are out there and they all have their own funding requirements. The action that the board will be taking in November doesn't take any action on funding itself.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I don't think there'll be, but is there any room for tweaks from the bias if it comes up? Maybe somebody complains about the level of the fines, for example. I don't picture anybody trying to pull a major policy thing from the dais, but is there room for tweaking up there?
So, I mean, at any time, nothing is final until the board acts, right? And so that's really where it goes. That said, there are subsequent actions that each of the ports would have to take, and then the agreements would need to be executed. So if there are changes, then that would have to be something that the ports would also accept before that could be folded into the final cooperative agreement.
And just sort of a comment, you can comment if you want, but there was a comment at the public hearing in Long Beach. And this is not a criticism, but at some point along the way, we're going to have an epic and expensive fail in this process. And I don't know if anybody remembers Solyndra, which was actually a nothing burger, but it was a failure that people latched onto that renewables are bad, but that's somebody's gonna make a bad decision somewhere down the road and things aren't gonna work out, but
Well, I think that's
it'll all be fine.
one of the reasons why we worked on this cooperative agreement, to include a lot of flexibility so that we recognize that there's risk and there's areas where we're going to need to course correct as we move on, and this agreement allows for that. Any other questions on the port item?
One more. The gas company put out a letter talking about their pipeline where they're going to be bringing in hydrogen.
Oh, yeah, I meant to ask about that.
Has that been talked about by the ports as one possible alternative?
There's Angelus link.
Yeah, the Angeles.
Well, I think hydrogen is in the mix in infrastructure, but it's really on the ports as to how they want to incorporate that and what they want to do.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm asking is what, have they voiced any thoughts, any opinions yet?
I don't know if I've heard particular opinions. I think we have heard that hydrogen is likely in the mix in general, just because the duty cycle for some of the equipment would, you can't do it through battery electric. So. Okay. Anything else on the port item? All right. Okay, seeing none, let's flip to the beginning of the agenda. Let's go to page 3. And we'll start off. We do have a item 2 here that I just want to point out, which is where we're setting the calendar for the board meeting schedule for the upcoming year. So just pay attention to that. I will note that we don't have set hearing items scheduled for this particular meeting. However, we did do a 60-day set for 2 rules, 1107 and 1469. So those will be coming in December. Okay. With that, we'll start off with item 3 and 4, and those are both errands.
Yeah, good morning. So the first one is to develop and demonstrate a fuel cell refuse truck. This is being done with a company called Symbio. They're a large fuel cell manufacturer. They have a facility over in Temecula, built this unit, and this will be demonstrated with a couple of local cities here. So LA Sanitation, I think City Riverside, and then I think there's a few more in the queue here that'll be demonstrated this unit. So, Paul, is there any questions on that? Let's keep moving on here. The item number 4 is our school bus awards. I cannot think of a larger school bus award than we've had in this one. We have 286 school buses being awarded under this for $78 million, along with working charging infrastructure. So this goes across all 4 counties. And pretty much everyone that applied got an award, just we were not able to award up. I think there's only 5 school buses that didn't qualify for this project, through this process. So pause there. Any questions on that?
There's just an observation. I know on this, involved money coming, which talked about funding electric buses. Fact is, electric bus is about 3 times more expensive than the natural gas bus. And the issue that I'm concerned about is that the school bus is important to reduce the gases from trucks,
Yeah,
help me on there.
NOx,
No, not NOx, the
Yeah.
diesel emissions.
diesel.
And because, as I recall, they say that the diesel emissions within a bus, it would maybe twice as high as right outside of the bus. And if we have 300 school buses going electronic, right, basically. Well, if it had been natural gas, it would be 900, which means you had an additional 600 school buses retiring 600 diesel powered buses, which would have been a great helpful, healthy thing for kids in those 600 additional buses that have to be could. That's only my observation.
So just want to note that the school bus program has been around for a while. So a lot of the school buses, the majority, I would say, that we funded in the past were natural gas. So there are.
So
This
how
is the
many
next
diesels do
level.
we have left in the system?
I don't know the inventory on that, but the majority of these, I
1,000?
don't know, we'd have to look at this, but it's a program that's been around for a long time. And so we're at the point now where we're replacing natural gas buses with electric buses.
All right, let's do, we're on page 4 of the agenda. We'll go to items 5 and 6, and those are Jason Lowe's.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. So item 5 is related to Rule 1180 and 1181, which fund the installation, operation of fence line and community member monitoring here for primaries and related facilities. So the actions are to transfer around $2.9 million from the Rule 1180 Special Revenues Fund and appropriate around $471,000 from the general funds into the monitoring analysis budget, and then issue one solicitation for backup power systems and purchase orders for air monitoring equipment. That I'm happy to answer any questions. Seeing none, I'll move on to item number 6, which is where South Coast AQMD received $730,000 from US EPA for the P25 monitoring program to meet federal monitoring requirements. The amount provided by US EPA is less than what was previously anticipated and recognized by the board in June. This action supersedes the earlier recognition and adjusts how the funds are spent by authorizing purchase orders for air monitoring equipment based on the final award amount. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, seeing no questions on that, we're on page 5, item number 7, Mr. Kraus.
Which
Grant services with Placer County.
oh, thank you, saying that one. Okay, so many projects. Yes, so this is a carb incentivized program to incentivize facilities in plating to convert from extra chromium into an alternative. This is overarching from statewide, it's about a $10 million program. And they reached out to us to assist in the local outreach, as well as little things like going out to a site visit or something like that, reporting back to them. And they would compensate us back for that staff resource work that we do with them under that. So this is basically a contract that would authorize us to accept some of those monies, as well as recognize that revenue into our general fund.
Questions for Mike on that? Not seeing any. Okay, the next 3 items, items 8 through 10 are Ron's. Ron's, take it away.
All right, good morning. This first action is to obtain approval for a 3-year contract purchase order with Acting Corporation to renew English licensing, maintenance and support. We have over 70 software systems built on the English platform. Our previous cost was for the last 3 years averaged around $500,000 per year. And after negotiations, the final purchase cost for the next 3 years is averaged about $850,000. In addition, this action is to appropriate funds to the Condition Management's fiscal year 25-26 budget to cover any necessary purchase short. Happy to answer any questions. Hearing none, go on to the next one. This action is to obtain approval for a 1-year period with CrowdStrike for a total of amount not to exceed $180,000. Funding for this purchase is included in our fiscal year budget and fiscal year 25-26 budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Go to the last one. This action is to transfer and appropriate up to $750,000 from the general fund undesignated to Information Management's 25-26 and or 26-27 budgets to replace the legacy permitting systems. The total cost is estimated to be about $1.5 million, and remaining funds will be requested through the 26-27 budget process. Happy to answer any questions. So this is a whole new permitting system, or fixing up the old one, or? Yeah, this is basically replacing the legacy systems. And when is that, will that be online? Or? We're looking at about a 2-year.
Okay, great. Let's move on to item number 11, and that is John's.
Hi, good morning. This item is to issue an RFP for office data cable infrastructure services and an RFQ for modular furniture systems moving services. And these are to implement a project that we're doing to modernize and reorganize the office space on the 3rd floor of the headquarters building. And staff will bring back the recommended vendors to the board for approval and to request funding.
Okay, seeing none on that, we're on page 7, item number 12, and this is our MSRC item. Aaron?
Yeah, I just noted that the MSRC made awards to $16 million to 4 county transportation commissions. This is for focusing on major upcoming events. So most of these awards are going towards the LA 20 Olympics to expand transit service for those games. There's also some other items that might have, and each of the Board of County Transportation Commission agencies received bids for to do that.
Okay. All right. With that, we have items 13 through 21. This information only, receive and file. There's a bunch in this time. So any questions on these items? Okay, seeing none, we're on page 9. This is our items 22 through 28. These are just reports for committees. Any questions on these? Okay, seeing none on that, that concludes our review of November's board agenda. Anything else on that before we move on to other business? All right, item 2 of our agenda, other business, anything to raise? I have the hand here. Who is it? Deborah, sorry, it's showing up there. Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
No problem. Let me just make sure I lower my hand. I just wanted to announce to staff and my fellow governing board assistants that this is actually with the holidays coming up, because we won't have a governing board assistant briefing in January or in December. The next one will be in January because of the calendar. But this will be my final governing board assistant briefing. I will be stepping down at the end of this year. My husband recently retired from the Army and literally hung his hat. You can see it behind me. Hung up his hat on a long career of military service. And we have relocated to Texas. And as much as I like to commute back and forth, I'm going to leave this in the hands of a new governing board assistant for both of the board members who I work with. I will be at the November meeting. I'll be at the December meeting. I'll be at some of the committee meetings to help transition the other board assistants. But today will be my last time here. And Erin Sheehy, who some of you may recall from previous employment at the district, is going to be signing on to be Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez's governing board assistant. And Mayor McCallan is still interviewing board assistant candidates. So there we go. It's been a tremendous pleasure to work with all of you through the pandemic and through all of this, and I've really enjoyed my work and hope I've made a meaningful difference both for my board members and in working with each of you.
Great. Well, we really appreciated you. So thank you so much.
And
Deborah,
you've
we'll
been
see you
here-
next week.
You've been here
Absolutely.
many years, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, I'll be out there, and you may see me race out though, because my daughter is due to make me a grandma sometime within the next 11 days. So if I race out of the board meeting, there's a lot of excitement
Congratulations.
happening.
A lot of good things happening for you, Deborah. Thanks again, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
We'll miss you.
Very much, very much. Okay, with that, moving on, is there general public comments? Seeing none, okay, at this point, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the November meeting.
You can make it home,
Deborah stepping.
unless there's traffic.
So with Deborah stepping aside, he becomes
I
the
don't want to hang around here for an
senior
hour.
business
Sarah.
consultant. You?
Yeah,
Well,
Did-
Oh,
I didn't hear the AB 617 update.
so it was under receive and file,
Okay.
information only, receive and file.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, I
Bye,
don't wanna-
Deborah.
I don't have a laptop.
Deborah, how long, when will you?
And